Happy Wednesday, everybody. Appreciate you all for being here. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Demetrius. I go by Didi, and you are officially tuning into the Didi Got a podcast. I appreciate you all for being here. As always, please hit the like button on your way in. I would really appreciate it, as that will help push the video onto the algorithm. Now, in today's video, you all see the thumbnail, you see the title. But for those of you that are wondering, no, I will not be interviewing anyone in today's video, although I am working on some things behind the scenes. More to come on that, so stay tuned for that. But today we're going to be reacting to an interview that a gentleman gave who is alleging to be the person that paved over Charlie Kirk's crime scene. Now, for those of you that are not aware, much like myself, there are two separate teams allegedly who was responsible for paving over the crime scene, which is what most of us were and have been concerned with. And then there's also a completely separate crew, according to this guy, who actually was responsible for pulling up the grass and sort of the pavement that was originally there when Charlie and his team was there on September the 10th. This is extremely important because I'm going to get into this in the interview, because I believe all of this was extremely and is extremely strategic. I do want to say in this episode, forgive me in advance, I have a scratchy throat, not really sure why. I feel fine outside of my throat, so I may be misspeaking quite a bit. As a reminder for people who may be confused, because you're seeing me drop videos on other topics and then you're seeing me coming back to this investigation, I want to remind people of what I said a few weeks ago so that no one's confused, although some people are still going to take away and make up what they want. I at no point in time made the declaration or the claim that I was 100% done with this investigation. What I stated was I was done to just making videos every single day. I don't want to say petty updates, because I understand any progression is progression, but I don't want to just be making videos just to be making videos on the topic, only when it's extremely important. And in this case, it is extremely important for obvious reasons, right? Because they paved over. It's also important to note, as you'll hear in this interview, the distinction between when they pulled up the grass, right? Pulled up the a lot of the things like grass and dirt and gravel. They did that, to my understanding, immediately, like the following day. They immediately did that right after September the 10th. However, as far as paving over, it is my understanding that did not happen until September the 15th, which we will get into once again in today's video. All right. So before we get into that, because it's about a 40-minute video, I always try to remember to check the chat, and I hadn't checked it yet. And I was going to be so mad if there was no audio, but we're good today. If it's not your first time here and you've been listening to me long enough, then you already know that I have my certain types of suspicions as to why they paved over the pavement. Some people believe it is so that they cannot and people cannot do their own investigations and figure out the type of bullet that was used, or to figure out that it was actually the microphone that Charlie was either holding, or fragments from the wireless microphone that was attached to Charlie's shirt. But as you all know, I'm about 50-50 on if Charlie Kirk is alive or not. I know for some people that's unpopular, but I believe that could potentially explain why they paved over the area, the crime scene, and why they pulled up the grass almost immediately, because people are going to come looking for blood. So there's that. What is it? Before we get into anything pertaining to the interview, we're going to get through, I promise you, and I'm going to link in the description after this live to the original creator of the interview, because it deserves way more views. Because like anything, you all may be able to find some things that another person may be able to watch this interview and think that it's not that big of a deal, he didn't say much. But some of you all may be able to find the different variations of the story and certain clues. And so that is another reason why we should definitely show love to the original creator. But before we get into that, I want to speak a little bit about the Thomas Massie. For those of you that don't know, I'm going to assume that most of you all know who Thomas Massie is. He is a member of Congress, based out of the state of Kentucky. And as you all know, he was involved in the GOP primary yesterday, and he lost. He lost to a guy by the name of, I'm going to get his name wrong, but the guy that he lost to was heavily endorsed by the one and only President Donald Trump. And there's been a lot of misinformation, a lot of propaganda put out there about Thomas Massie. So I want to share my screen first, and we're gonna sort of read a little bit about it. And I'm going to show you something interesting I found pertaining to this news of him losing. So let me see here. All righty. So let's go up here to the top. It says Trump-backed Galrin. I'm just going to call him Galrin. Trump-backed Galrin beats Massie in Kentucky GOP primary, ABC News projects. Right? So this was posted as of yesterday at 9:05 p.m. It says Republican Representative Thomas Massie will lose his reelection bid to Ed Galrin, who was backed by President Donald Trump in Kentucky's 4th congressional district, ABC News projects. And it's something interesting I want you all to see about this. It says here, Trump endorsed Galrin, a former Navy SEAL and a 5th generation farmer, before he even launched his bid for Congress, and the president admitted that he was willing to support just about anyone in order to oust Massie. Quote, I want to just give me somebody with a warm body to beat Massie. And I got somebody with a warm body, but a big, beautiful brain and a great patriot, Trump said alongside Galrin earlier this year. The race is the most expensive House primary in history, summing up to almost $33 million. So that's $32.6 million, but we know what they mean by this. We know what they do, that we know that they round up most times. And this number is not an accident, people. They are reporting that approximately $33 million was spent in advertising and ad reservations, according to Ad Impact. The race is the most expensive House primary in history. I want to make sure that we keep repeating that, because that is a really big deal. All right. I almost pressed the end stream button. That would have been bad. So now we're going to go over and we're going to listen first to what Donald Trump said about Mr. Thomas Massie, and then we're going to listen to what President J.D. Vance said. And trust me, it only gets worse.
It's so bad.
So let's see what he said here.
I hope you're going to put him out of business tomorrow. I'm in the Oval Office, and we're in a fight against the worst congressman in the history of our country. His name is Thomas Massie. He's from Kentucky. I hope you're going to put him out of business tomorrow. He is so bad. Got an election coming up. He's running against a great guy, a great patriot, Ed Galrin. He's fantastic. But forget that. Massie's the worst congressman in the history of our country, always voting against Republicans and good values. So get rid of Thomas. I hope you're going to put
Galrin is how you pronounce his name. Okay. So we heard President Trump. We heard what he said. Obviously, he's against Thomas Massie. As a lot of you all, that's not news to you if you've been following politics. But something else that should not be news to you is the reason why the true reason why he is not a fan of Thomas Massie. But before we get to that, let's take a listen to our Vice President, J.D. Vance, who I don't know if this has ever been said in the history of politics before, but despite the many things that Trump says, whether you voted for Trump, currently still like Trump, hate Trump, feel neutral about Trump, feel like Trump is a pawn, just like all of the presidents, regardless of where you fall, or you're like me and you don't believe that voting is real altogether, it doesn't matter. What we can agree and what we can, or I would like to hope that we can all acknowledge together, is that usually when Donald Trump behaves a certain way or says certain things, when J.D. Vance speaks, he's almost like the little brother, or like he's not the CEO, but he's that really good employee that seems to be more professional than the CEO. He seems to know more things than the CEO in the weirdest way. So when this person speaks, he's going to represent the company a little bit better. Well, this is one of those examples where that does not take place. And JD Vance is going to fall right in line like we should expect from the Peter Thiel created JD Vance, because like I've told you all, I don't just think that JD Vance is fake from the sense of politics, because you have to be fake in politics. It's just the nature of it. But I also believe that JD Vance is another type of obvious fake, in the sense of not only has he changed his name so many times, and we've spoken about this in multiple videos I've made strictly to talk about JD Vance on this channel, but something else I believe is fake about Thomas Massie is his quote-unquote values for family, his family values, his quote-unquote traditions, and even the beard that he has. I think he's constructed himself to try to appear like the family man, when in real life, I don't believe he stands for any of these things. I think he's a chameleon on a whole different level from the average politician. But I want you to take a listen to what this man had to say about Thomas Massie. And so many people were disappointed, but they shouldn't be.
I think the problem with Thomas, and I've told him this in private, and now I guess I'll say it in public, is it's one thing to disagree with the party on a particular issue. It's one thing to to have your independent stand on a number of questions. And by the way, some of the stuff where Thomas Massie has been independent against the Republican Party, I've agreed with him with. Thomas and I worked together during 2023, where I was trying to stop the limitless flow of American money to Ukraine. And Thomas was one of the people I was working closest with it. But that's one thing. Being independent, having your own opinions is one thing. Voting against the party on every single issue,
that is a massive mischaracterization. JD Vance is extremely intelligent, and he's extremely manipulative. And he knows that Thomas Massie is not there to refute the very things that he's saying. But I'm going to let him finish, and I'm going to tell you specifically how he's lying, and something that that is important to understand about politics if you've never worked in politics like I have.
Eventually going to make too many enemies. And that is the problem that Thomas has had. It's not one issue. It's not 3 or 4 issues. It's that every time that we've needed Thomas for a vote, he has been completely unwilling to provide it. That is why the President of the United States has trained his ire on Thomas Massie.
No, it's not.
It's because we can never count on him for some of the most difficult votes. I wish that weren't the case. I say that as somebody who's known Thomas well before I got into politics, but politics is politics. And when you always vote against the party, you can't expect the party to actually back you.
So like I just stated, JD Vance is a liar. Something in politics, if you've ever dealt with ballots before, if you've ever, been out on the streets and knocked on doors before, if you've ever been in at the Capitol, right, on Capitol Hill, I've done all of these things before. I'm not stating that I'm an expert. I'm not stating that I did it for decades, but I did it long enough to know some of the basics about how voting works in these halls. There is something called pork. Pork is typically referred to when there is something in a bill that you want. So they'll present the bill to Congress, in this particular case, Congress. And let's say the thing that you want in that bill is to lower or higher, or I should say increase minimum wage. You want that, the American people want that, fine, let's do it. But there's a lot of pork that comes with that bill, which just means there's probably going to be 8 to 10, 11 other things that's attached to that bill that are absolutely not only bad and you don't like them, but some of them sort of cancel out the very thing that you want and you've been campaigning on, which is higher minimum wage. So you have to weigh out your options. Do I want minimum wage at the expense of all these other 8 very important things that are very bad for our society, for our community, for our economy? So you ended up not voting for it, as you should, because it's a trick. They're like, okay, you want this? We're going to put 8 other things attached to it. Yes, We know exactly how this works. And proof of that is when you actually look at the things that Thomas Massie has voted for over the years, and it will prove that Thomas Massie is a liar. So when he says that Thomas Massie has voted against the party, well, yes, he has voted against the party, but how about you tell the people exactly what it is that he's voted against? And when you start to look at those things, these are the things, and I'll double check this. All of this is accurate. Somebody else just put together a fancy list. Thomas Massie voted against lockdowns. But what the Republican Party did, which is not only the Republican Party, Democrats do the same thing. They attached other things to the bill that are detrimental to the party's values, to the country's values. Lockdowns. He's voted against vaccine mandates, corporate bailouts, forever wars, gun confiscation, government surveillance, big pharma immunity, open borders, censorship, and big tech tyranny, right? Mandates, EV mandates, and car control, wasteful foreign aid, and look at that at the end, pork, which are usually a lot of unnecessary things that are not needed. That's the reality. That's the truth. So that is why, which this seems to never get talked about enough, Donald Trump and his supporters that are from a foreign country can generate just under or right at $33 million. Once again, there's that 33 number to prevent Thomas Massie from winning in Kentucky. Sometimes when you lose, you win, though. Sometimes when you lose, you win. Sometimes when you win, you lose. This is what I will also say. Be careful. And I've said this before. Be careful and just always be on the lookout when they're painting someone as the enemy. Because I've also seen a video of Thomas Massie at a rally. And I know this is going to throw people off that I switched up so fast. I'm not switching up. I'm just keeping people on your toes. Thomas Massie, with the help of Trump and his supporters, prevented Thomas Massie from winning in Kentucky. Thomas Massie, to our knowledge, has received no funding, no backing by AIPAC. AIPAC and company has made sure that Thomas Massie did not win. And so I've since seen a rally that Thomas Massie attended, I believe, in Kentucky, where they were chanting 2028. And let me see if I can actually pull that up, because sometimes it works better. When I'm able to show it to you all. Boom, here it is. I found it. So this is what I heard at a rally, and it just reminded me to always just be careful of who you're supporting and why you're supporting them. So the crowd is chanting 2028. I want you to take a listen to what Thomas Massie says in response.
What happens in 2028? You want me to run for Congress again? I don't know what you're talking about. All right, well, you made a compelling argument. You spoke your piece, but I need a medical margarita right now. And we'll talk about it later. Thank you and God bless.
So I thought that was very interesting. They were chanting president. They want him to run for president in 2028. All I would say is just be careful how they sort of present people as the enemy, because the way he's presented himself, the way he's carried himself, I think Thomas Massie would be a great president. But we also know how people who become presidents, how it actually works. And so Trump was an enemy just 5 years ago, just 3 years ago, right? The establishment was after him. Everybody hated him. They was trying to convict him. They was trying to put him in jail. They were trying to unalive him just so he can get in the White House and do all the things that went against what he campaigned on. So this is just a reminder to not be fooled necessarily because Thomas Massie is the enemy right now, right? Because that's how they trick people. And so I want to play Michael Knowles, who also has some disgusting things to say about Thomas Massie, but I think the point has been sort of driven home here. I want to speak a little bit just real fast before we get to the landscape guy to something that Candace Owens just spoke about. And for those of you that may have caught Candace's stream today, if you were not able to catch her episode, she basically shared that she's known for some time now because a source who she did not reveal that she says that she trusts, apparently Erica Kirk told multiple people that Charlie was working on making some updates, some last minute updates to his will. And she used an example of the widow who was also ironically in Utah, who lost her husband but was later convicted of a husband. I want to actually add some important context to this story because I've actually seen an entire documentary on this story. So we're going to first take a listen to what Candace said, and I'm going to tell you all why it's especially important as it pertains to Erica Kirk and Charlie. Okay, are you going to play? That was weird. I'm so confused here. Why is it not playing? Am I the only one that can't hear it? Here, let me see if it's working. That was very weird. Just give me 1 sec.
Actually, no.
Of course. Of course it plays then. That's strange. Why is it not playing? Okay, you all say you can't see it either.
Actually, no.
Okay, why is it not playing? I'm so confused. I'm so confused here. It's not playing. What is it doing? I actually learned something though. Let's see here. Here, let me do it from here then. Okay, maybe I'm able to do it from here. Let's try it this way. This is strange. I'm sorry, everybody. Maybe this will work.
Actually, no. Just a little adjacent story. Sidebar here. Remember that grieving widow we told you about a few months ago? The one in Utah, ironically, who was found guilty of murdering her husband out in, but like not instantly. Corroboration was her name. Her husband died of an overdose. She then wrote a children's book and went on a public book tour to promote how to cope with loss, the loss of with her grieving children. Are You With Me by Corey D. Richens. The media ate that up. Here is a little quick clip to jog your memory about Corey on tour as the grieving widow.
Parent, a sibling, or a friend, talking about loss with kids can be a tricky subject. Joining us now is author of Are You With Me, Corey Richens, to share her 3 C's to helping kids cope with grief. And Corey, I want to start with your story. What happened in your personal life?
So my husband passed away unexpectedly last year. So it's March 4th was a 1-year anniversary for us. And he was 39. It completely took us all by shock. And we have 3 little boys, 10, 9, and 6. And, you know, my kids and I kind of wrote this book on the different emotions and grieving processes that we've experienced last year. And, you know, hoping that it can kind of help other kids, you know.
Actually, no, that's weird. I don't like that. It's let me try it a different way. It's so annoyed right now. Like I'm really annoyed. I don't know what's going on here. You know, I'm so annoyed. I'm not even going to show the clip anymore. Whatever. Essentially, Candace basically just reminded people that this lady was eventually charged and found guilty for poisoning her husband. But it wasn't until a year later. And this is after this lady had went on a tour. She had sold a book, right, about how to properly grieve. But what the sort of amendment I wanted to add to that story is very important for people to know as well, is that the reason why they were able to catch this lady and why they suspected that she had done something to her husband is not only, number one, because she's the spouse and they're usually the number one suspect until they're ruled out, but also because the husband, the husband's family had and still is under the impression that she had allegedly attempted to take him out times before, and he had shared that information with them. He apparently had a sandwich one time, and he was extremely sick after the fact. There were suspicions of infidelity that was taking place. So that's extremely important to keep in mind as well, because there was a history, and he was telling people he felt like he was going to be taken out, right? So that's kind of very important to keep in mind as well, because as we know, Charlie Kirk was allegedly telling people the same thing, that being that he was in fear for his life, and he thought that they were going to unalive him. All right. And if you are curious, a great place to go and check out the documentary on this story that I just spoke about is one of my favorite YouTube channels altogether. It's called Truly Criminal. I love murder documentaries. And it was actually dropped 6 days ago. And it says The Story That Fell Apart, The Unraveling of Corey Richens. And it talks about this couple. They do an incredible job, just like all their other videos. So if you want some sort of comprehensive, detailed story, and you're going to see some similarities with what we've been hearing with Charlie, then go and check that out when you get a chance. And so with that, man, once again, hit the like button. Let's go ahead and hop over here into this story. Shout out to a gentleman by the name of Jimmy Rex. Jimmy Rex was the person to interview this gentleman who is claiming to be the landscaper who paved over the Charlie Kirk crime scene. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and hop over there and take a listen.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Jimmy Rex Show. Today on the podcast, I have a We Are the They member, a good friend of mine, the man that did my Zen garden, but also the guy that was hired to pave over Charlie Kirk's murder scene. So we got a very fascinating human being, Mr. Dan Merrill. Dude, Good to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks, brother.
Let's just kind of cover this Charlie Kirk stuff first.
Okay.
And then I want to kind of get into more of your story and some other stuff like that. One of the reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast, I mean, it's just fascinating. That was probably one of the 3 or 4 most impactful moments of our lives as far as, you know, a national event goes. And you got thrust right into the middle of it.
Yeah.
So what exactly was your role? What happened? How did that all come about for you to be the person they called? I mean, I think, you know, one of the reasons I want to have you on, you haven't really told your story, but you've been getting a lot of like death threats and people that think you're part of the conspiracy. And I just wanted to kind of really get into how that all happened for you.
Sure. Well, so interestingly enough, I came and met with you about your Zen garden. That was right when it happened. I was on my way back to my shop in Provo, and I saw 6 different precincts flying past me in the commuter lane. And I got to, you know, my shop is right. It's probably 2 miles away from UVU. I grew up right there. You know, we walked to where I went to grade school, you know, it's Vineyard, which is now UVU. And I saw all the cops coming past, and I got off on University Parkway, and everything was shut down. And I thought, what the hell, right? Got on the phone, asked Google, and Charlie Kirk, you know, had been shot. You know, I mean, I think Orem's a small town. You know, this is where I grew up. You know, I remember when it was UVU, UVCC, UVSC, right? It's grown. And so anyways, I think a lot of people around the world are looking at it, but when it happens in your own community, it's raw.
Yeah,
you know?
and it happened 5 minutes from my old house that I moved from 6 months ago. You know?
Right. And it was like this cloud had settled in on the valley, right? I was pretty ashamed of our state, you know, that it happened in Utah of all places, right? So anyways, that you know, we've been watching him online forever, right? I think his conservative values. So fast forward, I think that was probably maybe a Wednesday.
Yeah,
or a Tuesday.
September 10th. I remember that.
Okay,
yeah,
is it
was a Tuesday? I think it was a Tuesday.
Tuesday. My wife at that point was pregnant and very hormonal. She had been watching his videos for years. And so anyways, there was just that cloud. There was a cloud in my home. There was a cloud in the valley. I think everybody could feel it. It was palpable. Fast forward, I'm at home with my family, and I get a call, and I don't answer my phones on Sunday. They left a message, and the gentleman said, "Hey, you know, this is kind of weird," and he was kind of hemming and hawing on the phone.
This was 5 days later then?
Yes,
You said it was on Sunday? Okay.
Yeah, on Sunday.
So what I already didn't like, and you're going to hear Jimmy sort of ask him who the person is. He doesn't say who called him, like the exact person. I want to know who called him. Like, what's the person's name? What's their position title? Are they in the federal government? Was it somebody at the UVU campus? Who called you to come do this sort of last minute, what I'm going to call illegal, job? Who was the person?
And he says, "We've got a paver emergency." I'm like, the hell is
the hell's a paver emergency?
Exactly.
Yeah,
right. I'm thinking this guy's, what the hell? You know? So anyways, I wasn't going to even respond because I don't typically do that, but I'm like, paver emergency, you know, part of my MO is I like to be useful, you know, where I can be help, you know? So I texted the guy. I said, "Look, I don't work on Sundays. My guys don't work on Sundays. You know, I'm happy to call you on Monday. What's a paver emergency?" So he sends me pictures of right where Charlie was murdered. And he says, "We need to put pavers in this place." So I called him, and the guy seemed like a genuine good dude. He says, "You know, look, we don't have a whole lot of answers. We're told by, you know, people above us that we've got to put pavers in, you know, today and tomorrow. It needs to be in by Monday. And we've never done pavers. We've never installed them. And we want to make sure we do it right." And he says, "Would you come help?" I said, 100%. So I went and got my shit. I got my trailer. I started calling my guys, and none of my guys answered. And so I started calling my other guys, you know, my brothers. And then I called another, you know, so I put together this ragtag team, you know, of guys that we showed up on that Sunday, you know, within an hour and a half of when they called us with our trailer. And We met with a couple of dudes. I was telling you there wasn't a whole lot of information. There was 2 guys that were kind of in charge.
So by this point, it's all dug up and everything.
Everything's
what
tore
did
out.
it look like?
I've got pictures, I could give you pictures of exactly when I showed up. I took pictures of what it looked like. They had taken out about 10 inches of the dirt around the whole place, right? You can see where the pavers are, everything under that, probably 10 inches had been excavated.
Why do you think they excavated so much dirt? You think that they were trying to make sure they got any bullet fragments or anything that was in there?
I wasn't looking at it with that lens, dude.
Really?
I wasn't.
It didn't even cross your mind?
It didn't cross my mind.
Yeah, but what do you think now, though? In retrospect, in hindsight, what are you thinking? Now, for those of you that have already not noticed, something that's very strange is whoever called him, which maybe I missed it. I never heard a name. Whoever called this gentleman Dan seemed to intentionally want a company that was not very quote unquote robust. No disrespect to him, because it doesn't sound like he said he called his gentlemen, his guys, they wouldn't answer. So he sort of just put a team together and just showed up. And I wonder if that was intentional. It's to keep things, because typically when you have a bigger company, things are a lot more organized, a lot more documented. You know what I mean? It could draw more attention than what is needed. So they went to this guy, but only after the gravel and the dirt and the grass had already been pulled up, according to him, at least 10 inches, which to me is behavior you're only doing if you're trying to hide something, in my opinion, if you're doing it that fast.
The thing, you were saying stuff on social media. Everybody's saying stuff on social media.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I had been, I got so disheartened with social media because they just spin everything and they talk shit and fear mongering and hate sells. And I didn't want to see it. I knew there was videos out there. Right when I pulled into town, when it happened, I Googled it and I saw the video from afar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of Charlie getting shot. And I thought, man, I don't want to see that shit. This guy got shot. You see it, he's probably dead or dying, right? I don't want to see somebody murdered, especially a good man, a father and a husband. So I hadn't been on social media. I had stayed away from it. My wife had been on it and she was a wreck, bro. She was just, all that ugliness was just. So when I got the call, I thought, you better fucking believe it. I'm going to go help.
Mm.
That was all it was. I'm going to go help these guys. He's asking for help. They want to do it right.
But here's the question that I have. And again, I'm working on some stuff behind the scenes. So hopefully we able to get something sorted out. But this is what I would have asked him in this moment. I understand in real time when things are just happening, you don't really know because it's the beginning like it was for the rest of us. We're still trying to figure out what happened, and we're watching the news, we're listening to the what the FBI is saying. But when you say you just wanted to go and help, what are you helping with exactly? What was it? What was your understanding that you were going to? I know the physical thing you were being asked to do, but what I mean is by you showing up 5 days after a crime scene or a crime has potentially taken place and it's been plastered all over the internet, what do you think you're helping by paving over the crime scene exactly? Like, what is that supposed to do exactly? Because to me, that's not, if I'm in that world, I'm extremely suspicious about that. Why are you calling me 5 days after the fact to pave over? If you've already pulled up gravel, who cares about the rest of this? That's very odd to me.
He framed it in the sense that, hey, we want this to be done right. So that's why I showed up. So, I mean, to do pavers correctly, you over excavate, you get rid of the top soil.
Oh, you do?
You do, 100%. Okay. You want to get a good base. And these guys had kind of, there was two guys in charge and a ragtag crew. One of the guys was in charge of a state-owned facility in American Fork, and the other guy was in a maintenance groundskeeper on a facility in Provo. And these are the two guys I'm corresponding with. The first guy, the second guy that I hadn't talked to on the phone basically said, hey, look, we're not talking to anybody. We're not saying anything to the media. He says, this is above our pay grade. The FBI and the state, the governor and the FBI, that's what they told me. The governor and the FBI said they want this done by Monday.
That is wild. That is wild. That is wild. Crime scenes get I understand that crime scenes don't last forever and they don't keep that stuff up forever when I understand that, but I would just imagine that pulling up the gravel is enough. Paving over it is that's the most alarming part to me. If you don't want to keep red liquid just sit there, of course, you have somebody show up and pull up the grass, the gravel, and you clean out you spray it down, you do what you need to do. But to pave completely over it it's just that's another level of reason why people will never believe what they've told us.
And we need to get it done. We're not asking questions. We're not talking to the media. And so I said, okay. So I just, that's kind of my MO is, I've been in so many car wrecks and, I got a rollover when I was 17 and there was 3 girls in the car. I broke my back in 3 places, got a traumatic brain injury, but I didn't have my seatbelt on. I wrecked. We rolled down the freeway. We landed on the wheels and I got out and say, all the girls were screaming. I said, who's hurt? How do I got all the girls on the stretchers. And then, so it's kind of my MO is under pressure, I know how to just show up and help as best I can. So
you guys got it done that day, the next day. And then
so we worked until night, and, basically until dark. And then we came back the next morning and started getting it installed.
Was there anything that happened afterwards? Like any weirdness? Did you start getting people calling you or texting you, trying to get more 100%. Of the story? Like what happened then?
Well, no, not, I think there was, the thing that felt fishy to me was after it happened, and I saw, at that point, a few people had kind of accused me of being a part of the cover up. And I thought, so I started watching the videos. I started getting on Facebook and I'm like, well, fuck, maybe I was, fuck's sake. Yeah, and I really started questioning, like I had this weird thing going on. And
do you think it was weird that they immediately decided to excavate and pull up a murder scene of like such an important murder that's completely doesn't make any sense with the official narrative? Don't you think that's super weird that they would immediately try to excavate all that and pull it up instead of making it a crime scene?
So here's what a lot of people don't realize is very public crime scenes don't last as a crime scene very long. They just don't. Typically speaking, they come in, they take all their evidence, they wash it down with a fire truck so that people aren't coming and looking at all the blood and the gore. That's fairly typical. I don't know that's what I know. So
right, but to your point, and this isn't to attack Dan, but I want him to think about what he just said. The normal procedure, the normal protocol, the normal MO, as he would say, is to spray it down. Why are you digging? Like I would even think that's still suspicious to dig up, because if you're searching for a bullet fragment, you can make that argument. Why are you having someone pave it over? Don't lie. Give us this nonsense about, well, we don't even want people to be reminded that Charlie Kirk was here, and we want to just help people with their PTSD. Stop it. Spraying over that, cleaning down that scenery. It was one shot that allegedly went off, according to the official narrative. One. It wasn't some Armageddon drive-by shootout. We're talking about one shot that you all alleged the bullet stayed inside of Charlie. So what exactly are you digging for? What exactly are you covering up? And I know it's not necessarily your job to know, but if you are showing up to a crime scene, I would at least would like to know why I'm paving it over. Shoot, I want to ask somebody that. I understand it might be out of your pay grade, but I will converse with somebody about that. That's the part I'm not understanding.
At this point, that happened Tuesday. We're Sunday, so Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, till Sunday's a longer time. I thought but they started pulling it up. I think
Yes.
like the next day or 2 days
I don't
later.
know
You
what
weren't
that.
part of that.
Yeah, I wasn't part of that.
That actually that makes more sense because like I thought you were part of like the pulling it up and everything else as well.
So after we put the pavers in, we were working as a team, but I was going past some of the grounds guys and I said, I just hollered at him, said hi. And he wanted to tell me about, he was the one who pulled it up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What did he have to say? Do you remember his name?
I don't. No, I don't think I got his name, but he was part of the grounds crew for UVU. And he was pretty ticked. He was like, dude, I don't know why the hell they're bringing you guys in here or why they're bringing the state in here. They made us tear everything out, the blood and the nastiness. He was responsible for the cleanup. And he was a little bitter. He's like, I don't know why they're bringing other state guys, other state employees to finish out this crime scene.
No.
Chat. I call BS. I call BS either on his side, and I'm going to just give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he's probably telling the truth. So I'm calling BS on whoever he claims he spoke to. I want you to think about this. First and foremost, I will definitely answer the question as to why it is that they had two different sets of crew. It's like anything else. When you're a boss and you are trying to keep certain things from getting out, a great way to do it is to have different groups of people to come in and do different things at different stages. If you have the same group or same person to be responsible for each stage, they're watching everything take place and they're aware of what's going on because they have these links to connect. But if you have somebody to come in and vacuum the floor seats in your car and you pay them for that, if you have somebody else to come in and wipe down your seats, you have somebody else to come in to clean the outside of your car. If you're the police and you're trying to figure out if somebody was unalived in this person's car, then the people responsible for cleaning their car can only say, well, I don't know if they hit someone from the outside because I only vacuumed the inside of their car. Or I don't know if there was any red liquid on the floor of their car because I only cleaned the outside of their car. If you break people up to different sections and different stages of the quote unquote potential cover up, the cleanup, then it makes your job a lot easier, especially if these people aren't even speaking to each other and they don't even understand what's going on to begin with. They're just there to do a job. That's why. That would make the most sense, right? But let me go back. It's something else he just said there at the end that I missed. Hold on.
Oh, he was responsible for the cleanup, and he was a little bitter. He's like, I don't know why they're bringing other state guys, other state employees to finish out this crime scene.
No, it makes sense. So, and then you've had people, because look, I've been following it semi-closely. I was for a while, right? Now it's pretty clear to me they set this kid up, and
yeah, that's what it looks like.
It looks like it was the lava Mike. I would bet my life on that.
Yeah.
And we all know that Charlie had turned on Israel, and that's probably why they killed him. Right. I mean, that's their MO.
And just one point, when we were sitting there, somebody had been killed there, bro.
Sure.
It was heavy, dude. It was heavy, dude. It wasn't like
okay, I remember. I'm sorry for constantly pausing, but I remember now. He said that the other guy told him that that crew was responsible for cleaning up all of the red liquid and all of the gore. I'm not so sure I buy that. Because if he took pictures, I'm wondering if anybody else took pictures. And I wonder if those pictures are going to be shown during the trial. Is it possible? Yes, it's definitely possible. But somebody else telling him that that's suspicious alone, that they're bringing in a completely different crew to pave over. Why not just use the same crew? Well, I just told you why. It's easier that way. Much easier that way.
didn't want to fucking be there. I didn't want to be there, but I was trying to be useful. As you look up and you see where they're saying this shot's coming from, it's in plain fucking view. You can see like, but dude, I've hunted. A 30-06 from that close a range does not do what that bullet did, right? You look at the videos, you see his shirt do some crazy shit. You see his team catch him before he hits the fucking ground. But yet they can't see a guy right in front of them setting up. Like, it didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, no, it definitely doesn't make any sense. I mean, there's a really good comedy thing that Jimmy Dore does about essentially what they say the official narrative is. Like, the dude literally had to like take the gun apart, switch his clothes, put the gun back together, switch his clothes, go down. Nobody could see him this entire time, reassemble the gun, ditch it at a house that's owned by Palantir. Like, the whole thing is just insane. The official narrative is insane. It's kind of like I just think it'll be like JFK, right? Like, yeah, we know what happened now to JFK. We know who killed him. We know why they killed him, if you're following all this stuff.
No.
And it's kind of the same thing with Charlie Kirk. I think we'll never really know, but we kind of already know, you know? And that's just the reality of the world that we live in, man. I will say, like, it was just such a weird day. It really changed the world, I think, in a really bad way. And
I agree.
You know, Charlie Kirk was one of the few things standing between Trump and the Iran war, which we've now seen as a disaster. I can't figure out how to get out of that and all these other issues that are happening. But regardless, it's like, yeah, you're kind of attached to this history of it. So
yeah, it's interesting because after we got done, the fake reviews started to come in.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, I started getting probably a dozen fake reviews, just 1 stars. And I started looking, you know, a friend came to me and said, "Hey, I'm so sorry that people are, you know," well, let's see the timeline. I started getting fake reviews. So I posted a video.
Oh, okay.
And I just said, look, we were showing up to be helpful. And that's really all there was. If somebody was covering this up, it was the FBI, it was the state. It was not some maintenance guys and a landscaper. You know?
Well, I mean, what the FBI would do is they would call a random landscaper.
Right. Which made no sense.
Like, why do you think they called you? Like, you're kind of a smaller operation.
Yeah,
like, it didn't, that was the part where I was like, oh, they kind of used him. Like, because it made no sense.
No.
You're not a big operation.
No.
You wouldn't be the first call.
No.
You're also like a very humble, quiet guy. You know, it's like, I just felt like maybe that's why they picked you.
Yeah. And maybe that's part of what kind of blinded me a little bit.
That's literally what I said. That is so crazy. I had only watched a portion of this. That is crazy. That's the same suspicions that I have. That's what they did. Absolutely. What I believe they did allegedly is they looked up someone that was in close proximity. And what they said was, we're going to go with someone that's small, has a small team, you know, something that's not super robust, someone that probably won't ask too many questions, someone that will probably be very humbled and very gracious to even have the opportunity, someone that can get in there and get the job done and get out. I totally agree.
You know, as I got a call and they said, and it was like, why the hell would they call me?
Yeah.
I'm like, definitely not the most qualified, you know? I mean, I do hardscapes, and we were close. That might have been it. I don't know.
How close were you to UVU? Where's
my
your
shop is probably less than 2 miles away.
Okay.
So it's right there.
So there could have been just Google the closest one to
Could have
UVU
been
kind of thing.
Yeah. And I answered.
Sure.
I answered the call. So
do you regret doing it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, because you've had some death threats and stuff, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Not
you know,
actual ones.
Hindsight, there was a few of these truth seekers out there that have really big platforms on the internet that claimed that I was an Israeli death squad. I mean, I posted a video saying, dude, guys, we were just trying to be useful. If there's a bigger scheme here, I promise I'm not part of it. I'm not that important. I'm not like, you know, I didn't live, you know, I'm an open book. I'll tell you, you know, I've got history and, you know, anyways. And so I reached out to a few of them, you know, because people were just, you know, saying,
just want to get the story told.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had that before. People are just making stuff up about your, like, well, here's what I discovered is, like, I reached out one time, somebody was making up some stuff about me and they tried to turn it on me. They're like, oh, this guy's in my DMs now trying to hit me up. And I'm like, you little bitch. Like, that's not what I was doing. I was trying to, like, tell you like what the real story was. And then I realized something like, oh, they're not looking for the
They don't
honest
care.
truth.
Yeah, they don't
no,
care.
they're
Yeah.
literally just trying to cause drama. And then
Right.
from that day forward, I literally made a rule. I'm like, I will never respond to a troll again.
Yeah.
Because they're not
Right.
acting in good faith. They're not trying to get it right.
Well, and a month after that, it had tore me up, dude, because again, that I wasn't sure what the hell just happened. Like my intentions were pure. We weren't even going to ask to get paid on that job. We were showing up to be helpful. And by the time we were done, I'm like, you know what? I want to pay my guys.
Of course.
And so I charged the state.
Why wouldn't you want to get paid? It's the state.
I know. I don't know. We were showing up to be of service. You know, I don't know.
Well, quit doing that.
I know it is what it is.
Yeah.
But after I posted that video, you know, some trolls trolled it and spun it. And, 2,000, 3,000 comments later, I'm everything. I'm a, ghost company.
Did you make the mistake of reading the comments?
Oh yeah. And it tore me up. And I realized in the end that it's none of my damn business.
You learn that. Well, the thing is like, look, and I have empathy for people in this situation because everybody can smell the bullshit and everyone's like, this isn't right. This doesn't make sense. This isn't adding up. And so you're kind of grasping for straws a little bit. Like people that criticize Candace Owens. I think it's funny because I'm like, I love Candace Owens. She's wrong about stuff, but she admits it, but she's not trying to get everything right. She's doing what an actual investigative journalist should do. Yeah. You're just throwing questions out. You're asking questions. You're talking to people. You're taking every single piece of possible clue or evidence or whatever you can, and you're trying to figure out what happened. Like if I die tomorrow, I want somebody to go to bat for me like Candace Owens. Like I don't care if she's wrong 20% of the time. She is trying to get it right, and she's asking enough questions. It's funny. It's like Alex Jones. The guy's been validated on 80% of what he said, but people still want to focus on the 20. I'm like, that sucker said a lot of shit before anybody else that ended up being true. And I think Candace is kind of the same way.
Yeah. Well, she's the only
one. Did she reach out to you?
No. And she didn't come after me either. At least what I saw. I stopped watching. It was like,
well, she wasn't really coming after anybody. She was just trying to get the story right.
Well, there was a few that were coming after me that were
there was others that, I said Candace though. She was just trying to get the story right.
Yeah.
Well,
I just thought it was interesting that none of them, I reached out to a few of them.
They didn't get back to you?
No, nothing.
People keep asking, how do we actually get an AI agent on our team? Well, it's easy. Watch how I do it in 6.
It's like, dude, they wanted to be an echo chamber. And they wanted
what's one of the things. So the last couple of weeks, I've really, I made a couple of videos, just explaining the history of what's going on in Iran and some other things. And you kind of got to be willing to take on some noise when you do that. Then I realized, I'm like, you know what? Like, I've been watching this Iran thing now for almost 50 days, and it's just spinning in circles, dude. It's like a freaking, have you ever watched a TV show? It's like Yellowstone. Have you ever seen Yellowstone?
Like one episode.
Okay. Well, season 1, you're like, this is the best TV show ever. Well, they run out of new storylines, so they just recycle them. And it's like now I think they've had 5 seasons, or they ended up with 5 seasons. I cannot tell you one thing from one season that is specific to that season. It's all just this giant blend of bullshit. And you realize that, like, remember when we were younger and they had the daytime soap operas on, and you knew those were just a joke, right? We just don't know that they're a joke now because they're produced better. But like, there is no good reason to watch those things anymore. And so like all those TV shows now, to me, and I feel like that's what's going on with like the Iran war. It's like, we're going to close this thing. We're going to open it. No, we're not. And now we are. Now Israel's doing this and Hezbollah. And it's just like this circle of drama that just captivates people and that keeps them stuck in this place. So I made the decision a few weeks ago. I'm like, I'm going to every day, I'm going to skim through my suggested videos on YouTube.
Okay. I think that's a great stopping place. I don't want to share the entire video. That's about halfway through. They're talking about the Iran war now. I thought that was very interesting. The person that sent that to me, shout out to you. You know who you are, who sent me this interview. But excuse me, but you were wondering if I thought this person was legit, if I believe this person is telling the truth and is who he is claiming to be. I do believe that he was the person to pave over. And if I'm being objective, if you take him back and everybody, all of us, if all of us go back to September the 10th, September the 11th, that was crazy. We didn't know half the things. We didn't know most of the things that we know now, as far as all of the red flags, the things that we've been able to figure out that was going on around Charlie. That wasn't until much later. And so if you're in real time, then I can understand why he maybe didn't ask any questions. He just wanted to help. But I do want to play something else that somebody sent me to add some context about the UVU covering up the pavement on the UVU campus. And so let's see here. And this was also sent to me just before I went live. If I can find it. Shout out to Coach Colin. I'll link this in the description as well. So this was just sent to me. And this was some information that was shared that may be relevant to what we just heard from Dan. Let's take a listen.
Guy actually says my guys are well trained in keeping quiet. Now, before I show you that, I just want to show you this woman and what she has to say, because she actually talked to somebody who was doing the construction, who was called for the job.
UVU is lying if they said that the construction was pre-scheduled, and I'm going to prove it, because this is Edward Thomas. He's the one that actually received the work order from UVU on Friday, 2 days after the event. Now, let me show you the guy that he recruited to come in and help, because he realized when he got there Sunday morning, the earliest he could get in was Sunday morning. When he got there, he realized he bit off more than he can chew for the tight deadline, and he called in Daniel. Now, this is Daniel. This is Daniel from Hardscape, Utah. In a video that he released, he said he was called by somebody to come help them get this job done because it was a very tight schedule. Had to be done by Monday afternoon.
Guy actually says my guys are well trained in keeping quiet. Now, before I show you that, I just want to show you this woman and what she has to say, because
So I guess that sort of corroborates the Dan story. I mean, we just saw him there, except he wasn't as shaven there. So that is for anybody that maybe want to do a little bit of research on Mr. Dan. Yep. Yeah, man. So my thoughts are, you know, it was suspicious from the beginning. It's just as suspicious now. And let's see here. Where is it at? That's not even really important. I don't know. My computer's acting so strange right now. Like it won't play video clips unless I share the screen. I don't know what's going on there. So once again, sort of my final thoughts with that is that I think it's just as suspicious as it was before, except now we got to actually hear from the person, and they've said from their own mouth that they do feel like they may have been used to potentially help a cover up. He don't have the proof of that, but that is how he's feeling after he's looked into it himself. I would like to see the pictures from Dan Morrell. So again, I'm working on some stuff outside of this. So I would like to speak to him directly, because of some other questions that I would like to ask him that I'm not going to say ahead of time here. I'm also curious. I'm gonna just leave that alone for now. But what I will say, I guess it's safe to say, is I would like to see the pictures that he has, that he said he took, and I would like to see the pictures that the group before him had. And if he does not have access to that, or has access to the people, I'm just curious if they ever showed it to him, right? Because even if I can just hear from him that he saw pictures of what it looked like before the group before him pulled up the grass and the gravel, I would love to see that, you know? So there's that. And so, yeah, once again, I'll link that in the description. Yep, I saw it. I got your follow-up email. I'll link that in the description if you all would like to check out that entire interview. It's probably another 25 minutes left in it, give or take. And yeah, man, do that. And I'm going to catch you all in the next one. I don't really have any super chats, so this will be one of the shorter lives today. And with that, you all hop in the comment section as always and let me know what you all think. Did I miss something? Was there an angle from this conversation that I did not take that you all are finding interesting? Let me know. As always, hop in the comment section and let your boy know. I'm Demetrius. I'll go by Didi. I'm going to catch you all in the next one. My computer's still acting very strange, so I don't know what's going on. Maybe I have to restart it. All right, I'm going to catch you all in the next one.
Oh, yeah, Didi got a pie.
Attitudes and our work ethic become very important in realizing our goals and opening up possibilities. I had lunch a couple of weeks ago with a recent graduate at UCA. And his story is really fascinating. It's one of overcoming homelessness during his time pursuing his degree, first at a community college here in Arkansas, and then finishing his bachelor's degree here at UCA. His narrative ranges from estrangement from family for many years to a hopeful reunion with mother and siblings. His record is one of overcoming odds in a way that I probably could not, and certainly demonstrating levels of tenacity and patience and optimism that I can only marvel at. He wanted to talk with me about his new job and his career path going forward. I really need to be there to learn from him because that's where the real value was.
Everything I say in this video is alleged. Allegedly. No such thing as a life that's better than yours. Y'all can just repeat after me. I really appreciate it. Alright? No such thing. Come on, we can do better than that. Talk to it. Alright, let's start it over. No such thing as a life that's better than yours. You're worse than the rich white people or the rich white Jews that own these record labels because they don't even understand these populations. You have a lot closer relationship to these people and you're leading them to hellfire. You are leading them in the wrong direction in the name of getting rich and famous. How dare you?
Oh, yeah, Didi got a podcast.